Hello everyone, this is Salman Ali from Dubai News. News has just reached out to us that havoc is breaking out in Toronto because of the fact that Jack and the mother escaped from the room. Also because now they have actually learned what really happened to Macbeth. I'm sending it over to Jad Basma so he can cover you up on the latest.
Good morning everyone, it is 9:30 a.m., 2 degrees Celsius on DXB News here in Toronto, Ontario. My name is Jad Basma. Breaking news coming in, a woman who went missing and was kidnapped almost 9 years ago has finally been found after her own escape. This woman was abducted by a man named Nick. She says she had been raped on a daily basis by this man and was later impregnated with a child, who had passed after birth, by getting tied up in the umbilical cord. She had then become pregnant with a second child a few years after with another boy named Jack. And is more than thankful to have had him. Living in a shed in the backyard of a house, the mother and Jack shared everything they had, such as a bed, one toilet, and a sink. The media has tried to approach her, but doctors say she is still shaken up from events that took place and could take some time. In a statement given by the mother to the police, she said that, "When I was due for the first child, Nick had seen the child get tangled up in the umbilical cord and just stood there and did nothing. All he did was go to bury the child, and that is murder." The planning took days, the escape took years, but it had finally happened, all from the bravery of Jack.
It's a miracle that how the events played out in their favor, and I'm amazed at Jack's bravery.
Electrically locked door and a metal fence under the ground only left one way out. Was through the front when Nick had come through and unlocked the door to come in. Police say that Jack had pretended to be dead and was wrapped in a rug for Nick to go out and bury him. The mother has said that they had practiced getting Jack out of the rug when the truck had stopped. To jump out and escape. He squirmed out of the rug and jumped onto the street. The kidnapper had heard this and ran after the boy and grabbed him. Luckily, they had run into a person walking their dog. This man noticed something suspicious and had immediately called 911. Nick had panicked after the 911 call that had been made to the police and ran away without taking Jack, as his only priority was to escape. The police had asked the boy where he had been staying with his mother, and Jack told them it was a shed of the backyard of a house with lights coming through the roof. The police had looked in the area for houses with a shed containing a skylight and had found the mother, who has been gone and missing for 9 years. Nick has been found in arresting, facing charges of abduction, murder, failure to provide the necessities of life, sexual assault, and assault charges, along with a jail sentence that has yet to be determined by a judge in the court. But police believe it will be
As for
life.
Nick's sentence, Chad, he's currently being held at St. Brooks Maximum Security Prison, where he will be appointed an attorney as he cannot afford one himself. He will undergo trial in the next coming weeks, and I can assure you he will be handed a hefty sentence.
The doctor that has taken care of the mother and Jack said they are recovering really well, but it will take time, but they should be back home soon. Jack is also responding well to meeting his new family, seeing the light of day in the outside world, and will get more comfortable with this drastic change as time goes by. We'll have the latest for you when we get new information and get the chance to speak to the mother herself. When we know, you will know. Another top story breaking out in Scotland. Let's send it over to Salman, who is in Scotland, for more information with an interview. Salman, off to you.
Alright, thank you Jad. Good afternoon everyone. We are here at King Ali's headquarters at Don Mills. We are bringing you an interview with a knight and a peasant from Macbeth's time. We're glad you can make it here today. Please feel free to pass up on any questions that you may not like. Alright, so first off, as you've all heard, recent discoveries have enabled us to travel in time, and doing so made it possible for us to find out that Macbeth actually had a son. Now how do you feel about that?
Well, that's some very shocking news. I don't know what to say. All that I feel comfortable with saying that is that it makes me feel very guilty. Only if I didn't let down King Duncan, Scotland would have had a fighting chance.
Ah yes, it makes sense. Right before we left Scotland, I should sense trouble brewing. After hearing this, I think it might really just have been Macbeth's son coming for some vengeance.
Why, you might as well just steal the show. But yes, that is what we believe it to be. Anyhow, if I may ask, how would you feel about saving Duncan?
Well, it would be an honor to do so. After all, it's what I was born to do.
Personally, I don't think it affects me much. but it would be great balance for the country.
Oh, no. There was nothing more you could have done. Don't be so hard on yourself. I agree, and I have to say, you have quite a practical approach towards life. Anyhow, I have some other very shocking news which we learned in our latest time-traveling adventures. Which was that Macbeth did not actually try getting power because of the prophecies. It was because he promised his sister that he would do so he could treat her to delights. And what do you have to say about that?
All my life, if I believed it was because of the witches, I feel so betrayed.
It makes sense. You know, when you were a peasant like I was, you learned to observe a lot. I always thought no one would ever just go and kill someone because a random witch made a prophecy.
Well, now that's why we Ontario citizens say, doesn't matter how rich you are, but as long as you have a big heart, all is well. Anyways, back to the interview. How would you save Duncan if you could?
Well, with my fists, of course.
But we would have to account for Macbeth's son being there, and since you know time traveling is now a thing, so all we have to do is bring a lot of guns. Easy win.
Ah, yes. Very true. Now let's go on a lighter note with the question.
Well, Mr. Host, if that's all you have for us, then I guess we're gonna go back in time travel back to our time.
Alright.
It was nice meeting you.
It was nice meeting you.
It was an honor for you guys to be here with us today. Well, folks, the show isn't over just yet. We have our new special guest who has just arrived from Scotland. Welcome, King Duncan.
Thank you, it's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too, and glad you could be here. Now, I wanted to ask you, sir, if you knew that what was gonna happen, how would you have reacted?
Well, I'm big on destiny, so I have to say that it's okay. I was going to die that day no matter what.
Wow, that's very inspirational, sir. We thought you'd be really angry or something like that, but no, here you have it, folks. This is what King Duncan had to say about it. Thank you for being here today.
I'm glad to be here too.
Well, folks, thank you for tuning in at DXB News, Toronto, Ontario, to view our interview. We will be back with you after this commercial break.
Do you have problems with oversleep and you want to put an end to it now? Well, look no further, because you're in luck. I present to you the AS clock. This clock can even prevent death. If it can do that, it can prevent you from being late to school a couple days.
Not today, pesky murderer.
If the AC clock can prevent King Duncan's death and stop Lady Macbeth from getting interrogated, it can do anything. Buy it now for only $9.99. All colors, each sold separately. Batteries not included.
Hello, my name is Yusuf Abarakabi, and today I am here to talk to you about the events that transpired at Macbeth's castle and how it links back to current day. Supposedly, Macbeth and Lady Macbeth had conspired together to kill the late King Duncan in hopes of taking over the throne, which turned out to be a success. All this information was found out when a doctor went over to Macbeth's castle to the Lady Macbeth having some sort of apparent sickness. It turned out that her sickness was actually an episode of somnambulism, or better known as sleepwalking. He observed one of Lady Macbeth's sleepwalking episodes, and through it he saw many weird actions she was taking. For example, at one point in time, the doctor had said that Lady Macbeth had been washing her hands from the blood that stained on it. She would do that over and over again until she had committed suicide. Later on, the battle between Macbeth and Macduff had happened, and the result was Macbeth's death. After all this was concluded, the information about Macbeth and Lady Macbeth's apparent coordination to assassinate King Duncan had came to light. Now, because of all this, we would like to talk about how guilt can possibly affect the human mind, and if it can really do things that will get people to, well, for instance, confess about anything they may be feeling guilty about, such as the way Lady Macbeth did, while being in a sleep. If we look at the very fundamental of guilt, it is basically you being in an emotional state where you fail to follow a certain standard that you personally held yourself to. Guilt in many scenarios can cause you to act irrationally, make you more angry, and make you more emotional. Or it can make you confess your sins to some higher force in order to cleanse yourself of the sin. Along with this, guilt can cause you an array of mental illnesses that include depression as well as anxiety. As we know, both depression and anxiety are factors that do happen in most suicides, and most suicides do in fact occur because of these two mental illnesses. From this, we can assume that guilt does in fact play a role in how we confess things and if in fact it impacts the actions we take. So we can conclude that guilt does have a factor in all that plays into our decision making. From this research, we can also say that when you are guilty, you are more prone to confession, no matter the form it comes out in, whether that be consciously or unconsciously. However, to furthermore prove this, we can look back at the case where Tyrus Johnson had murdered a 74-year-old man. The only way this case was solved was due to the confession of Tyrus Johnson. The reason he had confessed it was due to the fact that he could not let his guilty conscience eat at him any longer. This further proves the fact that a guilty conscience does in fact play a role in how you confess, and if you do indeed confess to any sin or wrongdoing you have done. Due to all these reasons above, we can conclude that guilt does have a role to play in confession you make, whether it may be in a situation like Macbeth's or someone like Tyrus Johnson.
Thank you for tuning in on DXB News. We'll see you tomorrow morning bright and early at 5 a.m. for the traffic and weather report.